Let's get paid, y'all. Live dogs in the
Well. It is finally here. UFC 313. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. I am super stoked for this card. I've been waiting for it for quite a while. I've been very vocal about this card. Got a lot of writing on this card, and I can't wait to break it down for you. Also, I'm loving the main event, of course. I'm loving the co-main event. There's a lot of spicy fights on here and some pretty good underdogs. So, without further ado, let's bust it wide open. First fight on the card is going to be Ozzy Diaz versus Jordan Santos. This one, I don't know a lot about these guys. Not a whole lot of tape out there that you can have access to. But I do see a lot more finishes, not just by knockout, but by submission on Ozzy Diaz. He's a bit older, which, you know, in this division, I don't think it's going to matter too much. DeSantos, I mean, I'm really not impressed with either one of them. But I see a lot of decisions on DeSantos' record. I think if you're not knocking out Ozzy Diaz, you're probably not going to finish him. I think it'll be a sloppy, kind of a boring fight. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the underdog. I am going to go with Ozzy Diaz. I'm a little tentative about it. I probably won't bet it, but that's my pick. And then we have Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. It's a pretty close fight. Whoever you have here, I'm not mad at you. But I'm actually going to take the underdog of Chris Gutierrez. I like his pressure. I like his boxing. I think that Castaneda's a little, a little lazy out there. Doesn't really do anything great. If Chris Gutierrez can't win this fight, I don't really know what his ceiling is. I feel like this is a winnable match for him. He does have problems sometimes being consistent during the fight. He'll have a really good round, then come out and just look awful. And we just need to see a little bit more consistency from him. Bring that dog out, keep that pressure, and do what he does. And I believe he'll get a victory here. I think he's a solid dog. Then we have Marion Santos versus Francis Marshall. Francis Marshall is a young guy who's constantly improving. So it's hard to judge his fights because we really don't know how he's going to look from one fight to the next. Is he going to keep getting better? And I believe he is. But is that going to be enough to beat a guy like Marion Santos, who's kind of at the same place? We're seeing a lot of improvements out of him. He looks really good on The Ultimate Fighter. I don't think either one of these guys is going to be champion. But, as far as what I know at this moment, I think this is a winnable fight for Marion Santos, and I will take him. But I think you need to look at Francis Marshall here as well because of the improvements that he's making, and I do think he's a good fighter as well. And then we've got Alex Morano versus Carlos Leal. Kind of the same thing, but different, right? So Alex Morano, when he's on, he can beat a lot of these mid-level guys, and I believe that Carlos Leal is a mid-level guy. If Carlos Leal's not on his A game, Alex Morano will take advantage of you and will steal rounds from you and could even hurt you. So I'm not mad at the Alex Morano pick at these odds, but I am going to go with Carlos Leal for the simple fact that I think he's got a little more finishing ability and a little more upside at this point in his career. And then we got Bruno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. I really like this fight, and my favorite dog on the card so far is going to be Bruno Ferreira. I think he's more dangerous. He's got better wrestling. He probably won't use it, but if it's there, it's there if he needs it. He hits harder. He comes forward. I like his pressure. I think he's more of a dog. I think that he can make Petrosyan wilt, and Petrosyan will look good early in the fight. And you'll see Bruno Ferreira getting better and may even get a finish here. I like Bruno Ferreira in this fight. And they have Ray Tsuura, however you say it, versus Joshua Van. I think Joshua Van's going to hurt him. Joshua Van has got so much on the feet that this kid has not seen, will not be able to stand. Now, speaking of standing, Joshua Van has to be able to keep this fight standing. And that could be challenging for him. But he always finds a way to get back up. And if he gets back up, they're back on the feet again. He may struggle a bit with some of the takedowns because we know that Ray Tsuura likes to do the grappling, and he's got more of a methodical type style to his game. But just a minute on the feet with Joshua Van is going to be enough to get you hurt when you're playing with this man. So I got to go with Joshua Van. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Great parlay, great guy to put on your parlay for sure. Then we have Curtis Blaydes versus Rizvan Kuniev. Kuniev, former PED user. He's popped before. I think he's sloppy. I don't know why he's in the UFC. Maybe because he beat that Renan Ferreira dude over in PFL. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, if Curtis Blades can't win this fight, Blades is done. He's washed. You know what I mean? Outside of getting caught with something wild, this is his fight all day. I really don't know why they made it, but sometimes I think that, and I find that they know something I don't, and we see people that we wouldn't think would win come out and win, and we're like, oh, that's why they made this matchup. But I don't think we're gonna see that here. What I think we're gonna see here is Kuniev getting tired. He's probably he never really looked great before, but he's gonna look even worse without whatever he was using. Y'all know I don't care about all that, but it's just a reality, right? It's harder to use a lot of the substances that he popped for in the UFC, so I expect him to actually look worse than he's already looked, in my opinion. But it is heavyweight, and if you're crazy like that and you want to put a little money on the guy, because you want to play that knockout prop, do it. But the later this fight goes, the even worse he's going to look. He won't have the cardio. He's just not going to have anything for Curtis Blades outside of some hands early. But we've seen Curtis Blades get cracked before, so it's possible. Then we have King Green, which I'm going to call him Bobby Green. I'm not going to call another man King. I don't even know, I mean, you got to actually be one, right? So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. But, yeah, it's Bobby Green. It's always going to be Bobby Green. And he's going up against Mauricio Hoofy. Sorry, the cat's here. Yeah, Bobby Green can contend in the striking. I think the odds are crazy. I do think Bobby Green is going to always be live on the feet. But he doesn't take shots like he used to. And Hoofy is a guy that is impressive, but I do think he's already a bit overrated. So, I do think these odds are wild, but I'd be a fool not to take Hoofy. I think this is a winnable fight for him. So I'll be parlaying him, and I'll be, well, actually I won't because of the odds, but he'll be a solid pick for me for sure. Then we have Lemos, Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Lemos looks like she's on the decline. Lucindo is on the rise. Now, Lucindo is a lot younger, which is good, but also bad because we can see more mistakes out there. I think she can do enough to beat Lemos at this stage of the game. I'm going to take her. Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. This is going to be probably fight of the night. Great fight. Awesome matchup. They both can really do a lot on the feet, which will make it competitive. But I give the edge everywhere else to the ever-improving Ignacio Bahamondes. Jalen Turner's not quite who we thought he was going to be. I think he's still going to be, a mainstay in the division. But I think that the ceiling is higher for Bahamondes. At this time, I will take him. Then we have Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I took Justin Gaethje. Then I dialed it back. I really looked into it. He's coming off a bad loss, and he has been inactive for him, right? It's been like almost a year since he's fought. Now, you could say the same thing about Rafael Fiziev. But that's really the question. Is Fiziev going to come out and look the same? Because if he does, at this stage, man, I think he beats a guy like Justin Gaethje, who's taking a lot of damage, who's probably a little bit past it, or at least on the other side. Justin Gaethje can always hurt you, but I mean, even in the first fight, I really thought it was competitive, and I actually thought Rafael was going to win. Of course, my predictions at that time, I was still growing, still had a lot of work to do. Looking back now, I probably wouldn't have made that pick. But yeah, this is a competitive one. I'm not even sure how much I'm gonna put on this fight. There's better betting spots here. So for me, I will take Rafael Fiziev, but I'm not gonna bet this fight. And then we have the main event, Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. If you followed me, you already know who I'm picking most likely. If you don't, I'll get into that real quick. But I just want to say to the people out there, I am an Alex Pereira fan. Always liked the guy. Seen him fight live when he fought Yuri the second time. I've won money on him in all his fights and picked him to win all of his fights. So, I'm not a hater of the guy, but I speak the truth. And there's a lot of casuals out there, a lot of poetards who can't handle that. Maybe y'all just got here. Maybe y'all don't know that I do this every weekend, okay? Whether or not Alex wins or not, I'll keep doing the same thing that I'm doing. So we have to let that be known. But I believe the people who are going to have their head in their hands is going to be the poetards out there, the people who just can't accept that there are levels to this, okay? And I am picking Magomed Ankalaev because I do believe he is a better fighter, more diverse fighter, more well-rounded fighter, and just as dangerous, okay? So, one of the reasons I like Magomed in this match is because he's a southpaw. Now, I understand y'all going to tell me, well, he's already fought southpaws, etc. Yes, Izzy was beating him up in their first fight. I was sitting there with a ticket for Alex Pereira in my hand about to throw it away. He was losing, and he almost got finished in the first round. Now, I understand Izzy is a different level of striker, but let that sink in. Then we had Khalil, who was also a southpaw, who was able to close distance and get in there and really go to work on Alex Pereira for a lot of that fight. And Khalil Rountree's not the striker that Magomed is. We have to admit that. I mean, that's not even debatable. So those are two instances where he struggled with them. And you'll notice that when he fights a left-handed person, those kicks are not there as much. So those leg kicks that y'all keep talking about are not going to be as much of a problem in this fight. And it's going to force when and we know Alex can switch stances. But when he does that, you'll notice he's not as good on the back foot in that other stance. And that's going to be a problem for him because Magomed is a great counter striker, has power himself, has great head kicks, great kicks, period. The guy's got 3 head kick to punch TKOs in that division, which might be the most, period. You got to go back and watch his fights if you're not aware of that. For the people that think he's just a wrestler and stuff, you just don't watch the sport, man. You just don't. So I can't even entertain you. But speaking of the wrestling, he will have a much better advantage there. I believe that he should have a game plan that mixes in takedowns and striking. But most of all, I want Magomed to rely on his striking. Unlike what a lot of people think, what I see is I see a man that needs to be confident in his hands and stand with Pereira, and he can catch that chin, and Magomed 100% can put him out. I think Magomed by KO is the prop we want to look at here. I think it's very likely. And in fact, oddly enough, I think Pereira by sub, which is like plus 3,000, is a great prop. Because if Magomed has the bad game plan, which is just to go in there and not be confident and not believe in his hands and just try to wrestle Alex and do these desperate takedowns or something like that, which I don't see it happening. But, you never know with these guys, especially Magomed, because we have seen some dumb choices in there. That is one flaw that I've seen from him. He does make some mistakes out there. The IQ, you know what I mean? He has a pretty good fight IQ, can stick to a game plan, but he's not as consistent with it. And so if he comes out there and acts like he's just going to be a straight-up Dagestani wrestler, I believe he can do it, but I think that's going to make this fight a lot harder on him. And I think that submission prop is going to get more and more live because Alex is not going to just become a wrestler all of a sudden. You know what I mean? But we know he's been working on his BJJs since quite a long time. He lost his first fight ever by submission, and I believe that he's worked on that since then. He don't want to be there, but I think if you're going to put these guys in just a BJJ match, I do believe Alex is better there. Kind of a weird thing to bring up. Fight probably won't go there, but I'm just saying at plus 3,000, it could be live. I just don't see it happening, though. I believe Magomed is just going to be too much for him. He's a lot younger. I believe his chin's probably better at this point. And we've seen Alex Pereira get knocked out by a middleweight. You know what I mean? And we've seen Khalil landing on him. We've seen Yuri landing on him. And then, you look at the Bruno Silva fight, which was quite a while ago, and then you look at the Jan fight. I mean, he arguably lost that fight. If you put Magomed in some of those positions that Bruno Silva and Jan were able to get on Alex, man, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. So, we just have to let that be known as well. Magomed just has to be confident and have the right game plan here. He's a better fighter. The only way he loses is if he comes out with the wrong game plan, and that is always on the table. But I am confidently picking Magomed Ankalaev. I do believe he will beat Alex Pereira, and there's going to be a lot of tears, man. The Poetards, which, like I said, I'm a big fan of Alex, but his fans, not a fan of him, and they're going to be very upset. There's going to be a lot of tears, and I'm going to be loving every moment of it. Going to be loving it, baby. So, that's what I really look forward to, the tears. But, jokes aside, I think that it's going to be pretty brutal. I do believe we're going to get a finish. I do believe we're going to get a KO. So that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate the love, appreciate the hate, appreciate the discourse. Let me know who you have down below. And until I see you next time, let's get paid, y'all. Toodles.